Welcome to Level Up. I'm Sherelle.
And I'm Danny. And this is the podcast where we talk about health, fitness, and mindset. How fun. We've got a bit of a fun one today. We're playing a game of overrated or underrated. We've got some topics on little DIY handwritten notes. We've got a pile each and we're going to pick one, read the topic out, and Sherelle and I have to decide whether that topic is overrated or underrated.
Yep. And guys, full disclaimer, I had one job coming here today besides get myself in one piece here, and that was to bring the signs, and I bring half of them. So if you're wondering why Danny and I have sticky notes, that is why.
Very clever. So we only had one sign that said overrated and one saying under, but then we added the extra letters on a sticky note. So for the listeners who can't, you'll be viewing this on Spotify anyway, but if you're just listening to us and you hear a lot of paper moving, that's us adjusting our sticky notes.
I even looked at them all in the drawer because I've played this game before. I looked at them all in the drawer and I was like, I only need two today. We need two each, Sherelle. So anyways, we've got the sticky notes out and we are going to do our best. And I know, honestly, like 95% of you guys are probably listening and you're like, what the hell? But for the 5% of you that are getting the visual experience, you're going to see our DIY job, and that is the aim of the game.
How fun. It's already a great time.
I know. Let's start. Okay, flip the first one.
All right. So, training to failure.
Ooh.
Adjustment. Yeah.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Good. I'm glad guys, I want Danny and I to disagree at some stage, but underrated. You go first. Why?
I just think not enough people actually train to failure because the benefits are fantastic. In order for your muscle to actually grow and adapt, you need to really push it to its limits. So yes, there are movements that you don't need to train to failure, such as, squats, deadlifts, heavy compound lifts, but for everything else, train to failure. Don't be scared.
Yeah. And look, there's two types of failure as well. I think that I feel like most people don't train to failure. Like most people don't push themselves to true
when
failure.
They're physically able.
Yeah, when they're physically able. But we've got like technique failure or technique breakdown, which is like what you're saying with like your back squats and your conventional deadlifts and your bench press. Like you don't really want to be training to true muscular failure. You want to be on like technique's always going to fail first. But then you've got like a good pendulum squat or a good hack squat. You can really push hard and train to failure. And I completely agree, because how can you really gauge like reps in reserve or intensity or like your own strength capacity if you've never taken yourself to a place of failure? Like I think it's good for people to go there too.
Do it. If your technique's good and it doesn't hurt, push.
Push. Next one. Changing training around your period. Ooh.
We need different songs. Ooh. Underrated.
Overrated.
You go this time.
Well, look, I reckon a couple of years ago I would have said underrated, but I do think that a lot of people use it when probably they don't need to, or they might use it out of context, or they use it, I would never use the word excuse, but they put it in their brain that just because they have their period that they need to pull back from their training. And I know that there's been a lot of more research come out around training around your cycle. And I completely think that everyone is 100% unique and individual. Like I don't believe that we have enough research to like really argue either side, to be honest, because everyone's unique and there's just not enough research. But I do think that the way I see it used and marketed is overrated. And that, like of course we want to be out listening to our bodies, but it doesn't always have to do with our hormones. Like it has to do with so many other variables in our life. So that's why I went with overrated.
Yeah,
Tell me about yours though.
I did underrated just because I think there's still such a lack of knowledge in the wider community around the benefits around pulling back around your cycle, because it is a time where generally speaking you don't have to push as hard. From an injury standpoint, our ligaments are more lax around that time, so unilateral work under high loads and intensity can lead to injury. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, so don't psych yourself out just because you are bleeding that this will happen, but I still think not enough people are even aware of it. Yeah. So that's why I put underrated.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And I think that if you're really in tune with your body, it's a great tool. Like I think for people like us that just like we know when we've slept for half an hour less. You know, we can feel it in our body. But then there's also like a lot of people where they do see this information and they go, oh, I have to, you know, and I should drop the weight. They don't have the body sensation or awareness or even training knowledge to know what it means to pull back. And that's where I just see like a lot of the misinformation. And it is a shame because I do think, as you said, like it is a great tool and it can be useful for the right woman under the right context. But I think from the way I see it hyped more for me, overrated, sorry.
Yeah.
Great,
all right,
you're
good. We promised it'll be a quick one, so we got to get through it. Tracking macros. I should have had your sign.
Underrated?
Underrated for both of us.
Yeah, why?
It's just such a great tool to understand food, to understand how many calories you're actually taking in and just really, under the right circumstances, actually form a relationship with food. Obviously, we have extremes with everything, but if you can safely track your macros and you have a good mindset around it, I think it's a brilliant educational tool in order to just learn about food and how your body responds to amounts of food.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that like learning to track, not even just like macros, but calories in general, like I just don't see the disadvantage to it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not necessary, it's obsessive. Like it's easy to say when you've got the knowledge, but for someone that doesn't have the knowledge, when you learn how to track your food, it's actually really empowering.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone should learn how to measure energy balance. Like it shouldn't be like something we fear or something that we learn for losing weight. I just think it should be something that we know. Like as a part of science, we should understand energy in, energy out, calories in, calories out.
It would be nice to have it taught in schools in a gentle way.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are going to be extremes where it can like set some people off around behaviours with food. We're not talking to those people, but for the general, rather than learning about the food pyramid, I wish we could learn about calories
but
and
I
macros.
feel like if it wasn't just associated with changing your body, maybe we'd have less of that. You know, if it was just taught about like being a bigger or smaller version of yourself and fueling, and gravity, like it would just make a lot more sense and less misinformation because people would be like, that's not right. Like keto, you know, carbs, like they would have more understanding.
Is butter a carb?
Is butter a carb?
Next.
Up. Ooh, lifting accessories, belt, wraps, sleeves. Oh, it's so hard, isn't it?
It is. Why do we put ourselves in these positions? Overrated as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting. I thought you would have said underrated.
Yeah, I think when I wrote the card, my mind said underrated, but being on the spot, I think overrated because most people jump the gun. They haven't learnt how to hold up their own body in space first before wanting all the bells and whistles. Yeah. And there's a thing as saying all the gear and no idea. You know, get the idea first. Then when you're able to push your body to an extreme that is a little bit more than just basic fundamental movements where you have earned the right for the accessories, then you can use them.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think you should have a really good relative strength base before you start using lifting accessories because that's sort of the point, right, is to be able to give you that advantage to hold a brace or not worry about your forearm grip or anything like that. But then I also think as well, like I use a lot of those things. I don't use knee sleeves, but I use like straps and a belt from time to time, but I also have intentional phases where I take it away so that like my grip strength will always be a limiting factor to my Romanian deadlifts and things like that, always. But I don't think you should neglect training your grip or like or trying to deadlift heavy without a belt at stages and being sensible, of course. But like we shouldn't rely on it because there was probably a time where I couldn't go to the gym without all my accessories. I'd be like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh, how do I train without them? And I think that that's a trap as well. Like I think everything has a time and place, but for most people, it's probably not necessary.
Yeah, unless you're doing a powerlifting comp in like knee sleeves and wraps and all of that, you have to get used to that feeling. But for everyone else, earn the right for the accessories. Yeah. This is fun. All right, what's next?
It's a joy, isn't it? I don't know.
Mini cuts.
That was easy.
I didn't even change that sticky note.
Overrated.
You're going to bounce back, babes.
What's that? Oh,
From a mini cut. No, not you.
Oh, fucking savage.
Mini cuts. I don't know. Like, I just don't. I'm still calling a mini cut like a 6 to 8 week severe calorie deficit where you just needed that boost of something. You've got an event. Okay, I'm just going to change all my processes that serve me and just shred it down. Then the event will come and I'll put it back on. Yeah. That's what I still view a mini cut to be. So that's why I think they're overrated.
Yeah. I think I think an 8-week time, like for me, it's always about the timeline and the approach and the intention, right? Like I see a lot of mini cuts where they're like 3 weeks, where people just go in and they want to have like a quick jab and they go real aggressive and hard, like 40% deficits or just crazy things. And they want to just drop as much body fat in that time and maybe go back to building or whatever it was. But for me, I just think they're problematic from like a psychological standpoint. And I'm probably biased because I only work with like women, and we really get the short end of the stick in the fitness industry. And, you know, a lot of women have, I guess, you know, not all, but a lot of women do have a negative relationship with their body and self-esteem and relationship with food and all those things. And I just think, what's this achieving? Yeah. Like, fair enough if you're like a bodybuilder or a powerlifter in your peak season, you're going through a big surplus and you're like, actually, I just need to get back under this weight to do this. It's very different to then like someone or a Gen Pop being like, I'm going to do a mini cut. Because it's been proven to be more effective. It hasn't. Like, most people need more time than what they think during a dieting phase. And I wouldn't run anything under 8 weeks, to be honest. Like, no way. You got to give yourself time. You got to give yourself your body time to adapt and adjust. And then you also need to not go through an extensive reverse, but you need to like give yourself time on the opposite end too. So anything that's short and sweet, nah.
It's not sweet. It's just short.
It's suffer.
Short and sour.
Next up.
All right. Oh, you. Me or you?
Me. Ooh. Filming in the gym. What for?
Did you say what for?
I'm going to make my own assumption.
Underrated.
Underrated. I was thinking about for technique and filming in the gym to review form. And is that what you were referring to?
Well, you tell me, babes.
Yeah, I honestly think, and this is interesting because I know a lot of gyms are banning tripods at the moment. A lot. It's really popping up everywhere. And I understand, but then you know what I don't understand is there's a big gym that's banned it, but you can pay to film. That's not it's just for money, which fine, fair enough. But I think that it's underrated because more people, it's like having a mirror in the gym, right? But like, obviously you can't look to a mirror when you're doing a back squat. Like, you should keep your eyes forward.
Exactly.
But being able to film your lifts and assess your own form, I think it's an incredible tool that most people should be able to use. It's free. It's accessible for everyone. It doesn't require paying for a coach at times. Like, I don't see the disadvantage in doing it, besides people not liking being in the background, which is also fine.
Yeah. I love our gym because at Pato, we have 4 or 5 tripods on the floor. They're put in the corners, you know. People can just freely grab them and film their workouts, whether they're reflecting on their own technique, whether they're going to send that to their coach, whether they're creating content for their online business, whether they're posting that to Instagram, sending their awesome lift to a friend, you know, reflecting on their wins. I think there's so many benefits to filming in the gym, but unfortunately some people just haven't grasped the culture around filming that in other gyms. So it has been problematic. We're very blessed in a sense. We've put from day one emphasis on gym etiquette. And if people are walking in front of your tripod, don't get pissed off.
Yeah.
Let them walk in front of the tripod. That is so fine. But then also people know how to navigate. So if someone's going for a massive lift and they're filming it, you know, our members will stop and cheer and get around it, and you can often see them high-fiving at the end. It's just a really nice culture we've created. Often the ones that have banned filming in the gym are the ones that want money, essentially.
Yeah.
By all means, we do not let randoms come in who are just paying a casual and film, you know, on a professional camera with a microphone, just from respect, not only to our staff, but our members as well. Like, yes, that is an extra service to film content, but when it comes to actually just filming a low-key workout on a tripod, I'm all for it. A lot of people they haven't really emerged into the new age of the gyms. They've banned it because they don't really understand social media, very old school mindset. Maybe they have had poor experiences with people without gym etiquette, but I think it's 2024. you need to be able to film your workouts in a gym.
What I don't understand is like it's great marketing for the gyms. Like I don't understand. It's literally free advertisement.
Exactly.
Why would you ban it? Like it doesn't even sound like a good business move. My thought, I was like, like I heard this and I don't know if it'd ever be true, but like a lot of gyms were banning it because they didn't like the fact that people weren't using their personal trainers. And
what do you mean?
So, for example, people were using it to upload technique for online coaches and like obviously going outwards to get coaching, not from the gyms. And I was like, interesting. Like I've heard that quite a few times because certain people can film, but not others. And I just think that it's like, it's honestly like just a bad move if you're not going to hold a standard and also have principle behind why you're doing it. Like it just makes you look like the idiot, to be honest. And people won't train there just because of that. Whether they film or not, it's like, there's just something not right here.
You're
so
right.
yeah, I definitely think it's unfortunate. These gyms won't last because like you said, it's 2024 and it's only going to become more prevalent as people do want to share their journey. And that's also okay. Like regardless if you're uploading for a coach or just posting on Instagram, I don't think there's a fucking difference. Like why do you need to justify when you film yourself in the gym? Like each to their own.
And just be smart. Like don't put your tripod in the middle of a walkway.
Yeah.
You know, or check with the person next to you, hey, do you mind if I just quickly film this? And then have that conversation around it. It's not hard to gain the gym etiquette needed to having a tripod in the gym.
Agreed.
It's not hard.
Yep. And for anyone that is filming in the gym as well, I also think there's a responsibility that we don't fuck it up. Right? Like do those things, you know, like be courteous for other people. And, you know, like if you're going to film with a professional camera, go at off-peak times. Don't hog equipment. Like just be courteous so that we don't create this like, I don't know, us and them culture where it's like people not liking filming and then people wanting to film, because I think it's just like courtesy to, or like it's just etiquette, like gym etiquette, to not like get in people's way or like crack it if someone walks in front of your shot. Like that stuff makes me cringe.
Yeah, conversations need to be had around, but it shouldn't be hard.
Nah.
Good one.
You? Yeah.
Me. Self-help books or podcasts?
Ooh. It's so hard.
Nope, I showed you mine early. Hang on. I might. Ooh, I'm underrated. Sherelle's overrated.
Yeah. I think a lot of people consume self-help books and podcasts and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's overrated, because it's like, I don't care how good you think the 5 a.m. club is when you're sleeping into 7. You know, like it makes no sense to me. And I also was stuck in that trap probably in the past where I used to just like consume a lot and not do much with it. And I think reading as well, it gets this like hierarchy. It's like I read books and it's like, doesn't make you better than anyone. Like it's about what you actually do with the information that you are reading and consuming, right? And of course there's some like incredible books that, you know, have given me a lot of insight and perspective. But you know, when you read a book like the second time and you're like, wow, that just lands differently. Like I also think that it's based on like what we're doing and how we're living our life too. So I do understand that it can be great for people to like introduce themselves to concepts they've maybe never heard of and they're like, oh, that's interesting. But I also think the work's way more important than the words you read.
Yeah, that's very true. Totally agree with that. I'd put underrated because for someone who, and my younger self who just had my beliefs on what life had to be like and didn't really know what opportunities were out there in the big world, these self-help books and podcasts, or mainly books back then, was what allowed me to really see a whole new world and what people are capable of, gave me the tools regarding mindset, business, things like that, in order to formulate that self-belief to then go on a different path that was outside the norm. So it was just really cool to be able to listen to these things that no one had ever taught me. You know, no shade on my parents or teachers or whatever, but they just teach what they know. So I think it's a great resource for people to really open your eyes to a new way of being out there. You need to then take action. You can't get stuck in that loop of just reading books and doing nothing with it. However, for someone who's so new to that world, it can be really inspiring and you can go, wow, like I can achieve this because this person did and they're teaching me the tools in this book.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, make sure that you take a screenshot, upload it to your socials, and don't forget to tag us. Are there any books that come to mind that were like really, I guess, pivotal or insightful?
Oh God, I mean, For some reason, The Power of Now sticks with me because I think that was my first ever book around mindset.
Yeah.
And I've tried to read it again since, and it's so ironic because I just don't have the discipline to sit there and read it, even though it's about mindfulness. But back then, I had never really grasped the concept of stillness and not having thoughts. I would always have a busy mind. And that was the first wow factor that I had, in a sense of being able to observe and try and control your thoughts. It just had the biggest impact. And then combining that with other books, there's one, You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. Yeah. And it's just such an easy read. And it just has so many empowering takeaways, and even there's a money version, and it was just a really fun read, and she swears in it. And I'm talking 15 years ago, they're the ones. I've read many since, less as I've gotten older. But The Power of Now, anything with Eckhart Tolle, if you can tolerate him, we're less patient now. Jen Sincero was good. And then just more sort of story ones like The Alchemist. And it wasn't necessarily straight into the hard business books. That's when I got a bit older. Yeah. It was more just the mindset for some reason. That was just my path.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Once you start, like you said, it opens your mind, because it's often for a lot of people, it's the first time they've actually heard a lot of those concepts as well. So it can be quite empowering, because then it just opens up your thought patterns. It's like finding a podcast where you're like, wow, I hadn't thought of things like that. Books are literally like that. It's just that, you got to finish them.
Exactly.
And do something with them. Don't just read books. Make sure you're okay, I'm going to, I love books that have things to do in them, where they're that little practical piece, rather than just being inspired and then doing nothing, making sure that you can do something with it.
Tony Robbins was big, but then now that I've understood a little bit more about the nature of just
how he motivates,
how the motivation happens, now I look back and go, oh, okay, I probably wouldn't read that again. But at the time, it was just that spike. Sometimes knowing too much is not a good thing either, because then you just start to overanalyze and dissect things. But I'm all about a little spike in motivation if you're just going to use it and then allow you to open your eyes to a whole new world out there.
Same. A lot of people talk down on motivation, but I'm motivation's a symptom of progress to me. So if you're not motivated, it's where are you not growing?
Yeah.
Why are you not motivated? Why are you not positively reinforced that you're doing the right thing, right? So it's always something to get curious about, rather than being oh, I'm just not motivated. It's why? Why are you not? How can you? And like you said, books can be a great tool to help with that.
Yeah. Or podcasts, the Level Up podcast.
Like ours. Obviously, we're not going to say that they're not a good thing. Is it my turn?
Yeah, actually.
Discounting your service.
Ooh.
God, would you? I don't even.
Yep.
Thank God.
Overrated.
As if I'm going to say underrated. Gosh, definitely do that. You start.
I think discounting your services are overrated. Still a tool that can be used very sparingly. And I mean very sparingly, as, I just think there's too many people discounting things. And if I had just bought, I'm pretty sure most of us have been through the situation where, whether it's a coaching service or an item on the rack in the shops, you've bought it and then the next day it's 50% off, and you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Not only does it devalue the product, I feel, but then it also, you get pissed off. It's well, why did I have to pay full price and so-and-so gets 50%? I know why people do it. I don't discount my services because I tried that and it just attracts the wrong people. They don't value you or your service. They want way more than what, they ask for way more than what you're offering. It's always the ones that pay the cheaper price that cause the most trouble, even if it's family and friends. The only times I've sort of discounted, I've actually just created cheaper services rather than discounting. So I've never actually discounted my high-end coaching, but then if you're a past client, I make changes and mold things in, or if it's a group booking for a seminar, you get a discount, things like that. But if someone says, oh, can you do it cheaper? I will say, no, this is what I do. I take limited people for high-ticket items, and then if you want less of me, I've got lower services.
Yep, totally. You should never discount your time.
Well, it's your time.
Never discount your time ever. Like it blows my mind when I see people do that online where they're just like, no, my coaching is, what's that going to say to your current clients that are paying full price?
That's
like,
what I mean.
It's not, discounting and offering discounts is a short-term money grab. A lot of people do it at certain times of the financial year. For tax purposes, a lot of people do things like that, but not usually their time, but like maybe subscriptions or
like
products.
Black Friday sales goes off.
Yeah, like a lot of people do those sort of things, which is fine. But as you said, like the people that pay the least expect the most more often than not. And your price point also attracts a certain type of clientele as well. And I just think that you've got to be fixed on your value, right? Like my value is not fluent. It's not decided by anyone else. If they think things are too expensive, that's a perception of their own value, right? It's the value equation. So yeah, I think that you've got to be certain in it. And it also, this is something that I find interesting, but people value, if you pay more for something, you value it more, right? So if I went out and bought a bottle of cheap wine, right, I'd be like, that's cheap, right? But if I went and bought the same bottle of wine, but it was like $500, I have no sense of what wine is, by the way. So like I'm not a wine drinker. I'd be like, wow, that must be good. And then it would probably taste better to me. I'll look after it more. I actually have a good example of this. I, a couple of years ago, brought a really good pair of sunglasses. And I remember I paid like, it's not even much, but I paid like $300 for this pair of glasses, right? But in the past, I'd just buy cheap ones from like Sports Girl or whatever and throw them in my bag and I wouldn't look after them.
Yeah.
But this one pair of glasses that I paid like $300, which is a lot of money for me to spend on an accessory. I've still got them. And I've probably spent more money on cheap glasses in the meantime that I take to the beach or whatever, right? So when you actually invest in something that's like expensive, right, and that's different for everyone, you're actually investing in like the value of it, the long term, and your perception of that value also increases as a result. And sometimes that works against you. Like you ever go to a fancy restaurant and you pay a fortune, you're like, this is absolutely disgusting, or like I'm hungry, you leave hungry and it sort of warps it as well. But it's the same thing, like never discount your time and like you always decide what your value is.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The companies that I've worked with who are worth the most still ask for the most discounts, not just for online coaching. I think online coaching, no, but then I'm talking multi-million-dollar companies who we engage in services and things like that still ask for discounts. But then, so then a part of me thinks, well, are they that rich because they do ask for the discounts and then they get the discounts? So when it's your one-on-one time, I don't think it should be discounted. If it's a service, I still think there's that little buffer, not to discredit what I've just said, but there's still a little buffer for negotiation. That's my view, because sometimes it pays off. Or if I've asked for a service or paid for a service, didn't get what I was delivered, I've actually had the conversation and said, hey, like you said you were going to do this for us, it didn't quite happen. Can we negotiate the next bill? I think there's a difference between that.
Yeah, it's all value, isn't it? Like, when you've spent a lot of money on something and you're like, that's a lot, but then you get more value than you expect and you're like, that was cheap.
Yeah.
It's all value perception, and value isn't just like money. So like sometimes for sure, like maybe for a coaching example, like if you've got a client that you really want to work with and, it's just a little bit out of their budget and you want to bend because they'll be a great client and you'll have them for a long time, like maybe that's appropriate, maybe. But it's just always about like you holding what's firm for you. Like there might have been non-monetary value in that, right?
Yes.
Where there was a fair exchange. I still think it always comes down to fair exchange. And then the opposite, like I think that if you charge what you're worth, like you don't cut corners, right? And it's like you hold that. You're like, I've got to deliver here. And I think that's important for all business owners and people that are providing a service, because it's your responsibility to deliver on the value that you're actually charging. And I think that's good.
Perfect. Yeah, love that one.
Really Me or you?
Good.
I can't remember you.
You. We'd have to do another podcast and all that stuff, because that was a good point. How long's on the timer? We time our episodes, guys. We're being transparent in this one because we love talking.
I know, we ramble value equation for 7 minutes.
I know, but it's all valuable, guys. We know you're loving it, hopefully. All right, supplements.
Ooh.
I love that we say ooh after all of them. I don't want to look at yours. 3, 2, 1. Ah!
Oh,
I changed last minute.
Underrated. Wow, and I was overrated.
I had a big battle in my head before I ripped that sticky note off.
Yeah, look, I think overrated because a lot of people blindly take supplements that they have no idea what they're for. They have no understanding of like how they're going to know whether they need that supplement. So they're just doing it because they saw the marketing and they were convinced by the marketing. This isn't just supplements, but I just think like anything in general. Most people do stuff that they aren't aware of, like the outcome of actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I also like, this is just my own belief system and everything, but I also think that if we can eat the majority of our supplements, like our nutrients, our vitamins, our minerals, those sort of things, it's always going to be more beneficial, barring obviously things where, you know, like I used to supplement a lot more when I was competing because I was eating low calorie. So I knew I wasn't going to be eating like, you know, enough of the things that I needed. So I'd supplement more with that. The same with like protein powder. Like I supplement with what I need rather than just like, oh, I'll just have multi for everything. You know,
Yeah.
like, to me, I just
The
think
cheap multivitamin that's meant to
multi.
fix everything. You're just going to pay it out because it's cheap at Coles.
Yeah, and if you look at like the actual like the quantity of like how much is in what, like I just think most people would be very surprised if they looked a little bit deeper into what they're actually taking, why they're taking, the benefits, the levels, the quality of the supplement. A lot of things are quite unregulated at the moment. It's hard to know and judge of like what's a good supplement. But so yeah, that's just why I think it's overrated.
I know what you mean. I put underrated for supplements because I think the few very key supplements are underrated. A lot of trash supplements are overrated. Your BCAAs, all the fat burners, all this crap.
Still?
Yeah, overrated. Underrated for your magnesium before bed for muscle recovery. And then ever since I started working with a naturopath, I'm on daily herbs and supplements for my menstrual cycle, for my skin, you know, stress levels, things like that. Prescribed, personalized supplements are underrated. And I wish more people who have hormonal imbalances knew the benefits of working with a naturopath or someone that can prescribe supplements for them. So that's the lens that I went down on this. You don't have to spend an absolute fortune on your supplements, but coffee could be deemed a supplement, you know, things like that. So if you use them specifically and sparingly, I feel like there's still not enough knowledge on the benefits of natural supplementation instead of just going to the GP and getting, you know, some kind of antibiotic or something else. Yeah,
totally. Like I think like obviously caffeine, creatine, whey protein, and then the other ones that I've had like success with has been like magnesium, vitamin D and fish oil.
Fish oil, yeah.
Yeah, outside of that, like all the other ones that are a bit more like niched and things like that, like you said, they need to be like prescribed for you for a reason. And I also think they should be measured. Like it's just like any medication, supplements should be treated the same. Like there's going to be symptoms and usually side effects of most things as well. It's just that most people don't know what they are. And honestly, most people just take a heap of vitamin C and piss it out. Like they don't even know why they're doing it. But yes, completely agree. Like prescribed stuff where you're noticing the difference, underrated for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I reckon we can.
Oh, you go.
Oh,
was that it?
No, we've got a couple.
I got two left. How many?
Yeah, we'll just smash through them.
Smash through them.
Full range of motion.
Oh,
come on, you're on the same page.
Hang on. Training through full range of motion. Oh, yeah. I haven't looked at yours yet. Oh, we're not on the same page.
Overrated. Underrated. Wow, on different paths. Yeah, look, I think full range of motion, underrated for me.
What's full range of motion in your eyes?
Everyone has a different full range of motion of like what they should be doing. So everyone's range of motion is going to be different, but I think an individual's full range of motion, they should be aiming to use their full range of motion that's safe. Like no one should sort of stretch themselves to unrealistic means or whatever.
But that's full range. Full range of motion, if we're talking the joint and muscles, full capability of movement. Do you think we should train through that? Well, that's my lens on full range.
My lens on full range of motion is like everyone's got a different like mobility and range of motion. Like that's where I am. Like for me, for this question, like my range of motion is going to be different to like a lady maybe who's 40 years old doing something different of like what we should be accessing, right? Like I wouldn't get someone who hasn't done Bulgarian split squats to get like right into a deep deficit Bulgarian split squat for the first time ever. So I feel like everyone should be trying to stretch their range of motion in like a safe way. Like I wouldn't be limiting people's range of motion intentionally unless there was a reason to do so. That's just mine.
Okay, I think we're talking about the same point, but we've just put different things on our signs. But we're coming to the same thing because technically full range of motion is your joint's full capacity to move. You did mention training through a safe range, and I agree with that. I don't think we should train in our complete full range under loads that exceeds the capacity of that range. For example, if you're to train bicep curls in the gym, we normally go like this. That's not actually the full range of the bicep. To fully train a bicep through its full range, you have to supinate your wrist, flex your elbow, and extend all the way up. But you don't see people doing bicep curls like that. That's what training through full range of motion is in my lens. So I believe that we need to train in a range that will not hurt us under load. Just because you can move through that range doesn't mean you have to. A lot of my clients are hypermobile, super flexible, dancers. They've got EDS, which is a condition where you're super bendy. And, you know, as soon as you start to load those positions, injuries can occur. A big one that I see, and some people don't like this on the internet, but like with fully protracting and then rowing, I've seen so many AC joint problems with that hard load. You know, I really believe that if the load exceeds the capacity of the joint, you need to shorten the range.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. 100%. Everyone's capacity is going to be different. Do you know what one gets me is like people on the reverse pec fly and their arm comes all the way back. And
That's
like,
what I mean.
Oh, no. It's not supposed to do that. But yes, totally.
Yeah. So we agreed, even though we held up different signs.
Different signs, same thing. I'll do my last one, then you smash through yours. Social media for business, so IG, TikTok, etc. Oh God, I don't know what you did.
I won't show.
Oh, geez, I don't know. Do you know what?
Are you kidding?
Oh, my sign broke. It's all good. Oh, geez, I don't know. It's different. No,
Okay, so do you think social media for business is overrated or underrated?
I think, okay.
Underrated,
Okay,
both of
great.
us.
Yep.
It would be a bit rich if you said overrated.
I think it's like I've changed my mind a little bit on this over the years. I think 100% for marketing. Like it's necessary, and which is a big part of business.
Yeah.
Like you need that. But in terms of actually running a business, doing the job, providing the service, there's a lot of people that have fuck all social media following that crush it in business.
Yeah.
And I think that's challenged my bias in the past. Like I think social media is such a new, it's new, right? It's new in business, and a lot of bigger businesses now are like, okay, I should probably use this for marketing because that's where people are. But social media is just where the attention is. So like, I think for marketing, totally. But I was like, oh, for business, for doing the thing, do you need it? No. Like, but is it going to make life easier? Yes.
Yeah, I can understand why you were pondering over that now. It makes complete sense.
Yep.
Using social media for your business creates awareness on who you are, shows your skill set, shows your personality, and brings customers and patients and clients to you. Doesn't mean just because you're good on Instagram or TikTok that you're actually going to be good at your job.
Or retain your clients.
Yeah, or retain your clients. It draws them in, but it's up to you to actually be good at your job.
Yep.
So I still put underrated because it's great marketing. It's a beautiful platform that can be utilized well, but then don't spend too much time on social media and then start to neglect your actual business.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Oh, I've got 2 left. All right, we're on. Tempo, training with tempo.
Ooh.
Underrated, both
Underrated.
of us.
Most people don't do it.
Yeah.
They? Like,
flying through the reps.
I honestly think tempo is like the pillar of like a lot of things. Like barring exercise setup, like tempo would be there too, right? Like if you can't move something slowly, like everything else breaks down. So like you need tempo. Tempo is just like how slowly you're going to move a weight. And yeah, I think it's just the principle of almost everything.
Yeah, people just need to get over the fact that when you're slowing down tempo, the weight that you're lifting is going to decrease. It doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're actually going forward because you're learning proper technique, time under tension. Your muscles will actually grow better, and then you'll have a better foundation to then build upon. So train with tempo, slow tempo.
Slow.
Fasting.
Oh, fasting.
Did we sort of already talk about this?
No. We know that the answer to that one, don't we?
Hang on. Got to adjust my sticky note. Yep, overrated.
Obviously, barring cultural reasons, that's the one I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah, we're not
It's
talking
like,
about culture.
Not talking about Ramadan or anything like that. Talking about maybe like fasting for health, weight loss, those sort of things. Detoxing things. Yeah, like obviously there's reasons that people use fasting, and to be honest, they're pretty nuanced, and I don't think most people even know what they are. Like, so, you know, like I don't think they're necessary. I know fasting got a lot of hype around like aging and like reducing aging and things like that, which is fine, but like I still think like completely overrated for the majority of people.
Yeah, people were saying like if your body is spending energy on breaking down food, it speeds up like the chromosome breakdown, which is like us aging, which is so bizarre.
Do you know what's even better? Like just getting 8 hours of sleep a night and just letting your body like do its natural processes.
Exactly. I don't think we need to be fasting unless it's for medical or religious reasons.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. But yeah, unfortunately the fitness industry takes a lot of these concepts and like butchers them, right? To the point that they do become a little bit cringe, and it's like, ugh. You know, but there is absolutely reasons why people do those things, which is still important to them, obviously, and definitely not like overrated, but like for them. But in terms of the context for like health and fitness, yes.
Exactly. Wow, that was really fun.
That was fun. Underrated, overrated. So this is fun. As a lot of these things are, right, they're very much like your opinion. So like there might have even been some things today where you're like, oh, I just would have said the opposite to that. And that is totally fine. You even notice that like Danny and I said the opposite and then arrived at like the same scenario, because context always matters for like everything, which I think is super important, because you can find almost a case scenario for anything given the right context and information as well.
Yeah, and just because it's our opinion doesn't mean if your opinion's different, it's good or bad. Like just back yourself and have good evidence in your eyes as to why that's your opinion and that works for you and your clients, and just roll with that. Like you can have a discussion. It's about having educated discussions and back and forths. It's not just about that's right and that's wrong. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely did. Thanks for bringing the two signs.
I know. I'll never live this one down. So thanks, guys.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and hit follow so you can stay up to date with our podcast every week.